On our second visit to the Portland area, our good friend Natasha insisted that we needed to check out the Trail of Ten Falls, located in Silver Falls State Park. According to Natasha and many others, the Trail of Ten Falls is one of the best waterfall trails in Oregon. This loop trail winds through corridors of lush vegetation and tall trees as it passes through 10 gorgeous waterfalls. The trail also runs directly behind some of these waterfalls, making it a novel experience to be able to see the thunderous flow of the water from a different vantage point. This trail is 7.8 miles long with the possibility of additional detours, but luckily it is relatively easy. There are multiple parking lots and trailheads for this hike, but you do need to pay for parking, and there are only pay stations at the North Falls and South Falls trailheads. In this video, we will be leaving from the South Falls trailhead and doing the trail clockwise. We recommend this because this makes it much easier and the climbs are a lot less steep. You can pick up printed maps at this structure that you see on the right side of the trail right here. There are several junctions along the way, and this will help keep you on the right trail. You will also be passing by the cafe, which is kind of funny because I've never seen so many people on the hiking trail with a nice little cup of coffee. And there's also the Ten Falls Supply Co. that has tons of hiking gear, and the nature store that has a bunch of souvenirs. Eventually you will be coming to a junction, and if you want to do the trail clockwise like we are doing, you're going to be making a left here. If you go this way, you will be seeing waterfalls way sooner, and as I mentioned before, the trail will be easier. Along the way, you'll also be passing by this water fountain, which is a great place to fill up your hydration pack because you always want to bring more water than you think you'll need. Eventually, you will see a sign on the right side of the path, and you want to follow this small sign for the Canyon Trail. We are now leaving the comfort of the paved trails behind and heading out on the dirt. The good thing is that if you are not extremely mobile but you still want to see a waterfall, it is just a short distance to this viewpoint of South Falls. From the viewpoint, we will be continuing on the Canyon Trail to drop down into the valley. Along the way, you'll be getting more spectacular views of South Falls, which at 177 feet is the tallest single fall on this trail. Chances are you are going to see quite a few visitors here, because this is one of the most popular falls in the park due to its sheer size and ease of access. But if you continue on the trail, the crowds will get less and less. Even though this trail is quite easy, there are sections that are wet and rocky, so as always, we recommend wearing good shoes. As I mentioned before, one of my favorite things about this trail is that you get to go behind some of the waterfalls, and this is one of them. It seems like something that is so simple, but for some reason it does make for quite a surreal experience. At this point, we were already pretty much in awe of this trail, and this was only the first fall of 10. One thing is for sure, you're going to want to leave plenty of time to do this trail. The vast majority of the falls along this trail are so incredibly picturesque, and you're going to want to spend some time at them. If you haven't gotten your fill of South Falls just yet, there is this bridge right here that will give you a lower view of it, and you will also have the option here to take this trail all the way back up to the parking lot, making for a 1-mile loop. However, we will be continuing on to the next falls on the list, which is Lower South Falls. Even though the waterfalls are obviously the stars of the show out here, the rest of this trail is absolutely beautiful. Being from Southern California, we aren't used to such lush green foliage on our hikes, and another thing that we're not used to is trailside snacks. If you are out here during the right season, you will be treated to thimbleberries, salmonberries, and blackberries along the trail. Sadly, they weren't ripe when we were visiting, so we may have to go back. The good thing about the waterfalls along the trail is that since there are so many of them, it never feels like you're walking that far from one set of falls to the next. From South Falls to Lower South Falls, you're looking at a little bit less than a mile before you come to these stairs and some switchbacks. There is a good chance that you will hear these falls before you see them because they are tucked around the corner to the right, but soon you should get your first glimpse of them. Coming in at a height of 93 feet, these falls are just a little bit smaller than South Falls. But they are still quite impressive, and these are another set of falls that you get to walk behind. These falls seem to have a slightly more rectangular shape to them with a wider curtain of water. Something that's really nice about the way that this trail is laid out is that it gives you several unique vantage points of these falls. So be sure to bring plenty of memory cards for those cameras or clear out the hard drives on your cell phones. Every time we went behind one of the waterfalls, I was tempted to announce to everyone that this was the backside of water like the Disneyland Jungle Cruise, but somehow I managed to keep it to myself. It is estimated that on average, these falls put out 100 cubic feet of water per second. If we convert that to gallons, it's almost 748 gallons per second. That is a ton of water, but it pales in comparison to Niagara Falls, which puts out 75,750 gallons per second. Two falls down, 8 to go. At this point, you are going to want to keep your eyes on the left side of the trail because the creek is beautiful. There were a couple of spots where the water got really calm and there was these gorgeous teal pools. This is also where you'll be encountering some of your first climbs of the trail. It never gets all that steep, but you are going to be gaining about 1,200 feet of elevation over the course of the trail. At this point, you will be coming to a junction and you want to go left to stay on the canyon trail. However, if you are tired at this point, you can make a right here to take the 1 mile trail back to the South Falls Lodge. We will once again be traversing our way through more lush green foliage that looks like something out of the Avatar movies. The walls on the right side of the trail were covered in ferns, which reminded us of the Fern Canyon Trail, which is one of our favorite easy hikes in the Redwoods. We also found this small cave, which unfortunately didn't go anywhere, but V still had to investigate it. As beautiful and pristine as the forest is out here, it's hard to believe that this area wasn't always a safe haven for nature. Back in the 1920s, before Silver Falls State Park was established, the owner of the land used to charge people to watch him push cars off of the top of South Falls. Then later in 1928, a former logger named Daredevil Owl plunged over the falls in a boat. He sustained serious injuries and his partner fled town with all of the money that they had made for the stunt. It wasn't until 1933 that Silver Falls State Park was established, bringing an end to all of the wild shenanigans out here. This is the largest state park in Oregon, covering an area of 9,200 acres with over 24 miles of hiking trails. If you are doing this hike on a warmer day, there was a side trail that takes you underneath this bridge where you will have access to the water. There are only a couple more spots up ahead where you'll have this type of access to the water, so if you're overheating, you might want to take advantage of it. As we continued on, we came to our next waterfall along the trails, which is Lower North Falls. At 30 feet tall, it may not have the scale of some of the falls that we've seen so far on the trail, and you can't walk behind it, but it is still very picturesque. As we pass the falls, we are going to begin a very short yet rocky climb. It's nothing too strenuous at all, but it's probably one of the steeper parts of this entire hike. Once you come to the top of the hill, you will find yourself at yet another junction. This one is a little optional out and back trail that will take you to Double Falls. Taking a left here will only add 0.2 of a mile to the overall distance of the trail. While South Falls are the tallest waterfalls at 177 feet, these falls are just a little bit taller at 184 feet. But since it is broken into 2 separate falls, it doesn't get to completely claim the record. It's still cool to see though. After checking out Double Falls, we made our way back to the junction and made a left, crossing the bridge. After leaving the bridge behind, you are just a small hill climb and a short stroll over from the next falls on the list, which are Drake Falls. I'll be completely honest, these falls are only 27 feet tall, and you kind of see them from a weird angle, so these ones are not the most picturesque along the way. Since they are pretty much directly off the trail, it's worth going over and taking a peek, but you're going to be on your way pretty fast. On the other hand, shortly after leaving Drake Falls, you're going to come to Middle North Falls, and this one is much more impressive. To fully enjoy these falls, you will need to make a right when you see this wall right here. This is another short offshoot trail that will take you down to not only a pretty spectacular view of the falls, but this is also the third waterfall on this trail that you can go behind, and coming down here is the only way to access that. These falls stand an impressive 106 feet tall, and if you're visiting during the rainy season, they can stretch out to be 60 feet wide. This waterfall is definitely in our top 3 because it doesn't have any railings or anything obscuring the view. Obviously, this means you need to be careful and not get too close to the edge. After going underneath the waterfalls, the trail does continue on for just a little bit further before it dead ends and you have to go back. This means you'll be heading back up to that wall and making a right if you want to continue on along the trail. If watching this video has you even more obsessed with waterfalls and you want to get as close to as many as possible, we highly recommend checking out our video about kayaking to the bottom of Shoshone Falls. That is an incredibly unique experience, and I would definitely say it is a must-do if you're out in Idaho. After hiking for a little bit, you will come to yet another bridge and yet another junction if you're looking to cut your trails short. Turning right will put you on the Winter Trail, which you see right here. But just a word of warning, taking this shortcut will prevent you from seeing some of the prettiest waterfalls on this trail. From the junction, you are only 0.3 of a mile from the next waterfall. The trail will be, for the most part, nice, easy, and fairly flat, and you'll be there before you know it. Here we are arriving at Twin Falls. This is unfortunately another one that is slightly underwhelming. It appears that you used to be able to get a little bit closer to the edge, but for some reason they moved the fence back a little bit and you don't get a great view of it. This is going to be an extremely short stop, and soon you'll be back on your way. You will be coming to yet another junction, and if you want to follow the route that we're taking, be sure to stay on the Canyon Trail. This is probably one of the longest stretches that you will go between 2 falls. From Twin Falls to North Falls, it's about 1.1 miles. Along the way, you'll be weaving around and under some towering trees and a couple of overgrown sections. It's always a good idea when you're walking through areas like this to keep your eyes peeled for poison ivy, poison oak, and stinging nettle. Even though we don't specifically remember seeing any along the trail, I did end up getting into some on this trip, and it's not very fun. Along this part of the trail, we noticed that there were several little branch offs that would take you down to the water's edge. While it may not be anything earth-shattering, it did take us to a couple of tiny waterfalls and other good spots to stop, take a break, and eat a snack. Things will be ramping up just a little bit with a short hill climb before you come to one of our favorite trees along this trail. And it's this one right here with these massive roots that created a little bit of a hobbit hole. After crossing over this bridge, you will quickly be approaching North Falls. And this waterfall is yet another one of our favorites. These falls send the water tumbling 136 feet over the alcove's roof. Some notable facts about these falls is that they are the third tallest falls in the park, and they are also the only ones that you can see from the road without getting out of your car. Even though these are the third tallest falls, they have hands down the biggest cave behind the falls. I'm not sure if it was the size or shape of the cave or the way that the water hit the rocks, but these seemed like the loudest falls that we had encountered on this day. Even though there may be more beautiful falls along this trail, this is one that you're going to want to stop and spend some time at. Just be sure to watch your head when you're leaving though, because the ceiling does get a little bit low. After leaving North Falls, you're going to be climbing for just a little bit before you reach some stairs. These stairs will give you just a tiny bit of a workout, but much like the other climbs on this hike, they are pretty short and you'll be back to flat ground soon. After a short stroll, you will be coming to another junction and you're going to have a little bit of a decision to make here. Going right here will have you continuing along the loop, but going left will take you to Upper North Falls. I'm going to weigh in on it a little bit and say that if you have the energy, you're definitely going to want to go to Upper North Falls. Keep in mind that going to Upper North Falls will add about 0.8 of a mile to the overall hike, but I think that you will agree when you see it that it is worth it. It is pretty easy getting to these falls, and all you have to remember is to go left at the one and only junction on this part of the trail. And here we have it, Upper North Falls. Actually, I'm just kidding. This is Upper North Falls. This waterfall is the only one in the park that is not located along the loop trail. And there is something special about it. You don't look at it from the top down or see it from the backside. You can easily stand pretty much at the base of it, and for some reason from this angle, it just seems so much more powerful. Upper North Falls stands about 65 feet tall, and if you come during the rainy season, they can be about as wide as they are tall. When it's flowing that heavily, I doubt that you can get anywhere near as close, but it would still be pretty spectacular to see. After spending quite a bit of time at the falls, it was time to head back towards the junction. Even though this trail is quite easy to follow, we always recommend bringing a tracker. That way if you need help, you can get it. And it's always a great idea to run something like Strava to help you keep track of where you're going. Here we are arriving back at that junction, and this time we are going to go left to complete the loop. There's only one more waterfall located along the trail, but as you'll see in a little bit, at the time of the recording of this video, it wasn't much to write home about. At this point in the hike, it is less about the waterfalls and more about that lush green vegetation. Even though it will feel like you are out in the middle of nowhere, you're actually closer to civilization than you think. Just off to our left over the hill is Oregon Route 214, and occasionally you will hear a car drive by. You will be hiking for about 1.1 miles on some fairly easy terrain before you reach the trailhead for Waterfalls and the Winter Trail, which you may remember was one of the shortcuts you passed by earlier. Here is that trailhead. If you turn right here, you're going to be on the Winter Trail, but we're going to keep going straight. It appears that the waterfall here is called Waterfalls because it's only really flowing in the wintertime when there's lots of rain. In the summertime, it pretty much looks like this. It's too bad because these falls are 135 feet tall, and I'm sure when they're flowing it's pretty spectacular, but we might just have to save that for another trip. Things might get just a tiny bit confusing for some at this point because it's going to seem like there are two parallel trails heading in the same direction. You are going to see a paved path and a dirt trail. The paved trail is actually the bike trail, and even though we didn't see any bikes while we were there, we did our best to stay on the hiking trail. Eventually they do meet up, but we figured we'd stay out of the way just in case some bikes came along. We always love it when nature acts up and does something kind of wild, and that was the case when we saw this tree defiantly growing on another tree's stump. It seemed like it was almost getting revenge for its fallen friend. After passing by the vengeful little tree, we had a nice little downhill that took us all the way to where the trail met up with the main road. Even though we aren't back to the car, I would definitely say that it is smooth sailing at this point. And after one small gravel patch, the trail is going to be paved all the way back to the car. We are now officially back in civilization, and we're going to be surrounded by parking lots and dogs and picnic areas. Eventually, we will come back to that concrete circle where we made that left to go by the nature store. The funny thing is we will be going left again, but this time this path will take us all the way back to the parking lot. If you are in the area and you only have time for one hike, I would definitely say that this should be the one. And that is going to do it for our hike on the Trail of 10 Falls. If you have any other waterfall hikes that you think we should check out, let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because it really helps out the channel. If you have ideas for future videos, let us know. And for all the information about the Trail of 10 Falls and other awesome adventures, head on over to livethatadventure.com.